What's up, everyone? We've got another video for you today. So today we'll be working on the Suzuki FA50. We'll be working on the engine a little bit. Going to go out and get some stuff to work on it, and actually some microphone equipment, because I don't know if you've noticed, but up until now my audio quality is awful. It still is. Hopefully halfway through this video or towards the end it'll be fixed, but that'll depend on if Walmart and or Target has the stuff that I need. So I'm doubtful, but either way, maybe this video, definitely next, you'll be able to hear me and not have your volume all the way up. Don't worry, I know it's a thing. Now, the issue with this bike is that the engine had water in it, and it was locked up, and it was full of sand and silt and all sorts of nasty stuff. So part of the whole thing being rusty is that the hardware was rusted. So what I had to do, I don't know if you can see it, but I have my right angle grinder over there, and I had to cut the bolt heads off of the side cover of the engine so that I could get to the flywheel and put a wrench on it and break the cylinder loose. Now, I didn't actually break the cylinder, the piston loose of the cylinder. I actually broke the cylinder loose from the bottom end of the motor. So the piston is rust welded to the cylinder itself, which isn't good. You don't have to be a mechanic to know that. So despite my, spraying a bunch of silicone lubricant in there trying to free things up, it's toast. This motor is toasted. So we're going to see if we can bring it back around, or at least try to. I didn't weld it like I did with the Peugeot, which is completely torn apart, but that'll be for a later video. Now, this, I'm going to try to set up a fuel injection system on. Now, I've alluded to that in a bunch of different videos, but I've got a lot of good stuff written down, a lot of stuff rolling around in my head of how I can make it actually happen. So, because the carburetor on this is super messed up, and because of how compact the space is, I don't want to buy an original one because they're expensive, and I don't want to try to get this one to work because it's never going to run right. So I'm going to just, instead of shelling out the $100 for a new carburetor, I'm going to spend probably $500 to make a fuel injection system, because I am slow. Now, I don't know where I was going with all that, but here it is. It hasn't changed at all since the last video, except for what I just did to it 5 minutes ago. So things that we're going to need. We're going to need new tires, new inner tubes, a seat, a new key and ignition barrel, and we're going to need to obviously completely rebuild and go through the engine, and definitely look at the transmission, because it's a chain drive, single speed, and it doesn't work. So I think the kickstart might be messed up too. That might be my fault. Excuse me. And the rear brake cable is also bad. But short of that, it's in great shape. So don't ever say that I just buy junk, because it wouldn't be true. But short of that, it's in amazing shape. Let's get started on this thing. Thanks for tuning back in. Alright, so after a little bit of fussing, I got the piston out of the cylinder. So, as you can see, this is what I was referring to. Carburetor's in a little tiny spot here. It doesn't even have an air filter, strangely enough. I believe that was factory. But, so this was the side cover, and I ground the heads off the bolts. Didn't do a great job. I kind of nicked it a little bit, but, using a right angle grinder, it's not an awful job, not too butchered. So I'm going to have to pull these out with vice grips, but they were frozen in there, so I had no other choice. But look at that, it moves. See your piston right here? This is the cylinder, the jug, if you will. If I can pull it off. Come on, there it goes. Ah, alright, it's off. So, honestly, it's not good, but it can be saved. We can save this. This cylinder is usable. It's heavy too, for how small it is. But the piston, I don't know about that. I don't know how that's gonna work. So let's see here. Rotate that around. Try to get it to come out a little bit. That's about top dead center. Let's see. So yeah, I don't know if we're gonna be able to use this bad boy. I can try. I'm gonna have to clean it up. These rings seem pretty shot. I might just be able to get away with new rings though. So not a lot of travel. It doesn't feel like there's much play in the crankshaft, just pushing it up and down, which is really surprising given the state. I don't know if you can see quite in there, but it is disgustingly rusty and dirty. It's gross. But given the state of that, this thing's not as bad as I thought. So I think we're going to be able to clean this thing out. I'm going to try to take the flywheel off, maybe. But at least I'm going to polish up the inside of it. I'm not sure how I'll be able to get to that. You know, how I'll be able to accomplish that. But I'm gonna, because I have to. And then we'll see from there. And then we'll have to hone out the cylinder here. Then we'll have to clean out the head, which is up on the table. And then we'll have to get new gaskets and this and that. And, you know, clean out the exhaust. Make an exhaust pipe for it because it didn't have one. But yeah, so that's this is good news. This is good news. It looks like bad news, but believe me, this is good news. Okay, so I've made a pretty interesting discovery when I was taking a look at the Suzuki jug. Now, this is the jug from the Suzuki, and it's 50cc. You can see we have a same, I'm not sure the exact size, but it's out of the Peugeot. It's a 50cc. I don't know the width of it in millimeters, but you can see it fits in there, right? It's got bad rings on it, so it doesn't slide in there perfectly. But I discovered that this jug, off of an 80cc engine, two-stroke as well, right? You can tell it's significantly larger. It has the same size dowel holes on it. So, when I look at this, I see, wait a minute, this will fit onto that, or I guess on the, you know, on the lower end of the Suzuki engine. So, plunk. What that means is that I will be able to stick an 80cc top end on this engine, giving me a 30cc bump, which, I mean, is quite significant. We're talking about engines this small. It doesn't seem like much, but it's a lot. So this is off of a motorized bicycle engine. It's some Chinese piece of junk jug, and I have a piece of junk piston as well. And so if the wrist pin is the same size on the crankshaft of the Suzuki, and I'm able to put the piston in it, then I'm going to go ahead and try it out. So I'm going to have to clearance these fins up here a little bit. Right, you can see where these ones are a little bit taller. I'm going to have to cut those flush pretty much with the rest of the jug. And then I'm going to have to block off this intake, because originally on this engine, the fuel air mixture comes in through this hole, goes in through this passage here into the combustion chamber and crankcase. But this does not have that. This only has an exhaust port on it. So on the Suzuki engine, the fuel air mixture enters through the crankcase, which is only unique to two-strokes. Four-strokes don't do that. So I'm going to have to make a block-off plate for that, clearance those fins down, and it'll fit. This is a big surprise, and a good one at that. I did not see things going this way. So I'm going to get this mocked up and show you guys. Okay, so it's on there most of the way. I just had to clearance it out a little bit up here. Work this off. Come on, thing. Give it up. So, I mean, it looks like hell. I just used right angle grinder really quick. But I'm going to smooth that out, make it look nice. Get rid of the metal shavings in the actual cylinder bore. I have to file out the dowel holes through it. These ones up here. I mean, they run all the way through. But I have to file those out a little bit because the bore the spread on these is these, I guess you could call them studs. I'm not sure what the technical name is, but I'll call them studs. They are a little bit, the spread here is a little bit too much, and so you can get the jug on there about halfway before it kind of starts to bind. So I'm just going to file these a little bit with just like a round file. Just run it up and down and give it a little bit more leeway. But it looks like even the passages into the crankcase for the fuel air mixture to go through, I think those even match up. So I'm going to have to seal it. I'm not sure how I'm going to seal it. I'll probably, I don't know if I'll use a gasket or I'll make a gasket, but I might have to make a gasket here and then RTV it again around here, but because I don't think it's really an exact fit, so it's probably going to leak. But you can't really have a leak like that. So I'll find a way to seal it, but I'm going to go ahead and utilize the Suzuki head because it's going to give me a much higher compression ratio. Now, will it be too much for the engine to handle? I have no goddamn idea. So I'm just going to put this whole thing together and act like it's going to work when it might not. So that's really the only way to find out with stuff like this, is you just got to try it out. You know, there's nothing on the internet anywhere in any book that tells you how to fit a, you know, Chinese motorized bike top end onto a Suzuki moped from the 80s. So you really just got to try stuff out, and that's what I'm doing. So if I can make this work, then I will make my crude fuel injection system and make this little sucker run. And that little blue tag right there is going to be the fix to all my problems, because then it'll be street legal and I can do as I please. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the video here. There's not really much to show you at the moment. It's just going to be a little bit of figuring here and there. So the next video is probably going to be about me getting this jug on there and getting that other piston hooked up to this connecting rod in this engine, and, you know, solving little various issues here and there about this thing. So once again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.